Hey everyone, welcome to the Pitch Purpose podcast. Before the interview with Sean starts, I want to first thank you for tuning in and ask that if you had any value from this podcast, could you do me a favor and give it a rating on your podcast platform? I'd greatly appreciate it. Another note, this episode is a little different than normal. Sean and I talk about our Christian faith, vulnerabilities, hurdles in entrepreneurship. It was a great conversation and I hope you enjoy it. Let's go. Okay, good afternoon everyone and welcome Sean Keller to Pitch Purpose. You are here if you're listening because you believe that purpose and profit coexist and that neither should have to sacrifice. And I am so excited to have Sean Keller on the show today. Sean is an entrepreneur, filmmaker, and business coach who crafts soul-moving content and empowers others to use stories as connection tools. He started his first business at 17, creating video courses for one of the world's premier theologians. For the last decade, he's filmed video content across the United States, dozens of videos for businesses, nonprofits, government organizations. His success has taken him far, but he regularly battles with autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, and ulcerative colitis that have hospitalized him many times. So it's this personal story of pain that motivates Sean to tell stories and inspire hope in others. Sean lives with his wife in Fort Worth, Texas, and a little mini golden doodle. So Sean, welcome to Pitch Purpose.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was so kind, Tony. Yeah, this is great.
Awesome. So tell me, Sean, you are a business owner. You've started multiple businesses and you're primarily in Wisconsin, but moved to Texas. So why don't you tell your story of your businesses and how you got started and where you're at now?
Getting into entrepreneurship is a funky thing. I imagine everybody has their own unique story of how they find themselves there. Some, it's like a dream passion and they always knew they wanted to start businesses. In my case, it was really a happy accident. I was going to school, even a little bit before that, I was in high school and knew that I didn't like making PowerPoint presentations. It just was not my favorite thing. And so any class opportunity that the teacher would let me, I would pull out a camera and try to do a video and do that instead of presenting. It's not necessarily that I'm uncomfortable with presenting. I was like, I got to make videos. Like, this is what I got to do. And at the time, I was really heavily involved in graphic design. I thought I was going to be in a punk rock band. I played a lot of guitar. And so I didn't know where that creative energy was supposed to go, but I knew I had this creative capacity in me and it needed to go somewhere. And so I went to school for graphic design, thinking that I'd become a creative director. And I was on a 4-year trajectory, accelerated program. And not even halfway through, about a year and a half in credits wise, my illness flared up. And I've had ulcerative colitis since I was about 12. I was diagnosed at 14. And by most of high school was rough, but manageable. And there were a couple years where we had to get, I don't know what it was, like education, dean of education approval or whatever, or state of Wisconsin approval for the amount of days that I would miss. And so doctors would have to give all their documentation to the state. And so there were a number of years where I would miss 20 to 30 days of school. But
Wow.
I'm a high achieving, very motivated, productive person. And so grades didn't really suffer. I was in AP classes all through high school. And so I could maintain it. And it really was an invisible, shameful, embarrassing thing. And I didn't like letting too many people know that I had a disease. So flash forward to college years, about a year and a half in, I started losing weight rapidly and I was put on a new drug and I lost about 20 pounds, 25 pounds in 10 days.
Wow.
And so up until that point, I had been volunteering at mega church. I had done a lot of freelance work. The first client that I got at 17, paid client, was the theologian. For any Christians out there, church going people out there, NT Wright was my first regular paid client. And that relationship lasted for 6 years. So the work was there, the energy was there, the skill set was building. But I was in school for graphic design, got really sick, and ended up in and out of the hospital for 9 months, maybe even close to a year. And sleeping, my body's totally depleted. I think by the end of it, I lost close to 30 pounds and totally depleted. I was at the point of having 6 feet of intestines removed from my body and put on a bunch of different drugs, IVs, steroids, all sorts of stuff, hundreds of vials of blood drawn in that year. And ultimately, they couldn't find something else that was contributing other than colitis and fibromyalgia. But yeah, that year was a big setback financially, education wise, and then just spiritually and emotionally. I felt pretty exhausted and defeated and didn't know what my purpose was, didn't know what I was supposed to do. And that's where I decided to go be an entrepreneur, was in that space. So for me, it was out of this very insecure, I had some traction and some success and knew that there was a little bit of momentum with past clients and work that I'd done, but it was not the clear pathway that I thought was going to happen. So yeah, long story short, the starting the business really came out of being a high school kid. I opened my first business. And then when I say is the legitimate phase in my business, came after this intense season of going through the wilderness and having to wrestle with, where do I find purpose? Where do I find meaning? What am I supposed to do? What are the skills that I can serve people with? And entrepreneurship came out of that.
Sure. Awesome. I love that you shared that story, and I appreciate your vulnerability and honesty there. That's something that I imagine was and continues to be stressful and impactful to your life and to your work. But I think your story of recognizing and owning the struggles that you had and letting that be a catalyst and a launch point for what you do in your business, from film to coaching, and being able to use those experience to help others and to help others share their stories is super cool. So tell me the name of your business and what you do for clients.
I alluded to the name in there. The business name as I currently have it now is called Wilder Story. And the idea is that, and you touched on this too, a little bit of what we all go through painful experiences in life. We all go through, we might not label them necessarily as suffering moments, but we all go through pain. And whether you're born into it, whether you stumble into it, whether you choose it in some cases, or someone causes it on you, we're all going to experience it to some degree. And what we do with that pain determines the future trajectory of our life. Like, you can turn your pain into purpose. And I know that's a really generalized way of saying that it's a long journey. It's a very stirred and soulful and postured journey to say, I'm going to take my pain and to turn that into something that's useful for someone else. But Wilder Story, that's really the idea, is to tell video content, coaching, products that help people develop and use and understand their voice so that they can tell their story. And it may not mean that you have a great, excruciating, painful, horrible story. That may not be the case. In fact, I hope it's not for most people, but pain is not a comparison game. And so we shouldn't be saying, I have 1% of pain compared to someone else. They have 100% of pain. They've lost all their limbs or whatever, or they have autoimmune diseases, or they can't speak, or they have financial struggles, and I just don't struggle with anything. And that's a very comparative way of elevating their pain and diminishing your own. And it is not necessarily that all pain is equal, but all pain is part of our story. And so becoming familiar with and being able to identify the voice of pain in your story, and then using that in the case of videos and filmmaking, we love contrasts. Like, we love having somebody to root for that's going through something tough. And maybe they don't come out the other side perfectly unscathed and everything's fully resolved. Maybe they do. But we do need some abrasion in the story to feel compelled to keep watching it.
Yeah.
And so Wilder Story really connects the dots between all those pieces of creating films and content and strategic videos that help organizations know how to better serve their audience, know how to raise money, know how to inspire joy. And so it does a number of different things in the coaching space, being able to have one-on-one conversations with individuals that maybe haven't put words and language to the things that they've struggled with, or the insecurities they have, or the things they feel vulnerable with, and being able to use those things once there's comfortability there and once there's familiarity, to use those things as teaching points for someone else or anchors to build a business on, And so it's not necessarily that we want to celebrate pain, but we want to acknowledge it. We want to sit in it. We want to be vulnerable with it and then use it purposefully and diligently with a healthy posture to inspire ourselves first and then use that to inspire others.
Absolutely. It's just thinking about when you're talking about the comparison game with suffering and pain. It is easy to compare ourselves to others, some in good ways. 'Cause there's this quote from Reliant K that comes to my mind frequently. It says, if a nightmare finally does unfold, perspective is a lovely hand to hold. And I think about that when it's like, you think about your problems and you think about things that are going across the world. Yeah, it's good to have that perspective. But at the same time, you can minimize your own suffering, whether you're in severe pain from autoimmune disease or whether you're in pain because something crazy, devastating happened in your life. So there's just finding that balance is hugely important. There was another thing that I was thinking of that will hopefully come back to my mind later. So let's talk about the, oh, I know what I was going to say. So Stonewall Jackson, I think he was maybe a war hero in the Civil War. My brother would kill me. He's a huge history buff. But when he was sick and very troubled with disease or whatever illness was going on, and this is me trying to translate a story from a text message that my brother has read this whole book, but he sent these images of Stonewall Jackson sending messages to his wife, and he quotes Romans 8:28, which is every good and perfect, or no, sorry, wrong thing. I'm going to Google it. I know this verse, but I'm put on the spot.
I was going to say one of the things that I've never heard somebody quote a Reliant K quote, but that just made me happy smile while you're saying that
Yeah.
because they're so, yeah, Reliant K is amazing. My top 5 favorite bands, which I'm less ashamed to share now. I used to be really ashamed of this, but Skillet, Reliant K, Need to Breathe, Switchfoot, and John Mark McMillan. So
Those are all great.
you got one of them.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, Romans 8:28, which was what I was trying to quote, and that is, we know that all happens to us is for our good if we love God and are fitting into his plans. God works for the good for all those who love him. That was a Stonewall Jackson remembered that, and thinking with all this suffering and pain that he was going on, like that mindset that is, it's going to work for good. But I think that something that I see in you and that I admire is just taking that pain and knowing that, okay, God's going to use it for good for me to be able to coach others, for me to be able to help others, for me to be able to help share other people's stories from that connecting point of the vulnerability and being authentic. And whether you're a believer or not, just understanding that what is going on right now is serious, but it's something that you can come out, Lord willing, on the other side and be able to help others. So
Yeah,
what leadership?
I love that.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I really resonate with that. And it's something that I do want to share that is a different side to the entrepreneur, specifically to the entrepreneurship thing, is that it becomes less easy to be an entrepreneur as at least for me, as you start to develop a family and think about having a family and groundedness in life and security and those sorts of things. And to anybody that's, I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to share this to anybody that's feeling really discouraged by the journey of entrepreneurship. It is very much a soul journey too. And the things that you're learning internally, the hurts that you carry inside of you, the pain and the shame that's been undealt with, the grief that you have, but then all of the dreams and all of the goals and all of the milestones and things that you hope to see in the world, all of that is intermixed into this journey we call entrepreneurship, especially for solopreneurs. And there's a big weight on you that everything, every good thing comes from you. And this is where I want to contrast it with that verse is that entrepreneurship says that every good thing comes from you. Every success comes from you. Every new client comes from you. Every new opportunity or money or whatever it is comes from you. And the re-anchoring in that verse is that no, like even as an entrepreneur, we don't have the control that we think we do. And there's a lot of things that are and it may be my type A personality speaking, but there's a lot of things that I wish perfectionism could fix. And there's a lot of things that I wish excellence could fix and performance could fix, and that you could just magically generate the money that you're looking for and magically have the time off that you're looking for. And there are benefits to entrepreneurship, and we can touch on that later. But just to contrast it with that verse, it is God that is working a new work in you. It is God that is working for your good. entrepreneurship may be something that you're doing for a season or for your life, but it is not entrepreneurship that is the thing that is going to set you free, that is going to be the thing that leads to success. At least at least not in a spiritual sense. It may lead to financial, it may lead to freedom, it may lead to other things, but I want to be thoughtful to not paint that picture that entrepreneurship is just roses and butterflies the whole time. I also want to be careful not to lean too much into that and say that it's just horrible and bad the whole time. It's
Yeah.
both. It's both. And they both can be true. There's a lot of high highs and there's a lot of lows. And so it's a roller coaster journey that is going to stretch your soul and help you grow as a human, grow your
Hmm.
character. But the re-anchoring that I think we all need, regardless of whether you claim to know Christ or not, or want to know Christ or not, is that entrepreneurship is not 100% the answer for the things that are out of control in life that are just going to be out of control. And we can't fully fix them the way that we'd like to be able to.
Yeah, that's so important. Appreciate you sharing. I've always dreamed of being an entrepreneur since I was little. I love Shark Tank too. And I think that show, as well as a lot of people glamorize entrepreneurship. And there is a lot of good that can happen from it. Then there's this other side, there's tough. And something that always bothers me when I watch Shark Tank is the intro and it says these like they're all self made entrepreneurs. Like you're not, I don't think that anyone is self made, that they're just, yeah, there's effort that people make, but it doesn't just I believe that every good and perfect gift comes from above. But even still saying, oh, that they're self made, then it just sets you up for failure if you're an entrepreneur. You're continuing to compare yourself. What am I not doing? I'm a failure. I can't measure up to that. I can't measure up to these other people. It's just this constant, like, if you're trying to get to this level where I need to make something of myself, like to be this good, then you're just yeah, it's just setting yourself up for failure. So let's talk about and you shared a lot of wisdom in terms of what you learned. What books and frameworks and things that do you recommend that have helped you craft the stories the way that you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. From a practical standpoint, there are a number of great reads. There's a number of excellent things that are probably specific, more specific to my field, just in video. But book wise, building a story brand, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
Yeah, building a story brand, bits simple. Go Giver is my second to the Bible. Go Giver is the book that has had the most direct, tangible impact on my life. And it really Bob Berg, he might be listening. We're connected on LinkedIn. I don't know. What I would say is it is a business book, but it's a business book disguised as a personal development and reorienting of the heart book. Just really beautifully done. It's a fictional story. Some of the other classic ones, like Atomic Habits, is really good. Never Split the Difference. So just the practicals, E-Myth Mastery was recommended to me by a really good friend and mentor. And actually my first boss, the one that hired me for NC Wright, he recommended E-Myth Mastery for years and I didn't want to read it. And it is a really solid book. So there are a lot of tools and resources practically that you can read. But as far as tactical daily things that you can do, I hate to sound like a broken record because I was resistant to these same things for years, but journaling, and it doesn't have to be daily. I think we throw the word daily in there and then it sounds horrible. And it's like, why would I write things out daily? And so if that's uncomfortable, write things out weekly. Do once a week journal or journal when you feel like it. Set a calendar reminder in your phone for once a week. And if you're not feeling it that week, don't do it, but do it when it feels right and slowly make it a habit. I'm going to go against the grain with Atomic Habits a little bit. I think we have to enjoy the habits that we're doing. Generally, there's going to be seasons where we don't, and we just have to do them. And discipline becomes the dominant attribute of that season. And we just have to be disciplined to keep doing something. But particularly in entrepreneurship, you don't want to build habits that suck life out of us. Because if we're constantly sucking life out of ourselves, we're going to have
Mm.
no life to give to someone else when we sell them something or help them with something. So if journaling or whatever it might be, exercising, journaling, whatever, if that habit is not regularly leading to life and it's not regularly life giving, I wouldn't say cut it out completely, but learn to adapt it in a way that is challenging, but not defeating and abrasive so that you won't do it and it's sucking life. So it's this weird balance
Mhm.
between knowing that you probably don't you wouldn't naturally wake up and do this thing versus I'm going to do this every single day for the rest of my life and I'm going to be a perfect journaler and I'm never going to miss a day. There's some balance in between those. So you have to find your own balance of, yes, this isn't the most desirable thing on this particular day, so I'm going to do it tomorrow. Or I really don't, journaling isn't my favorite thing, but I'm going to find joy in it today. And then tomorrow I'm going to take off. Or this week I'm going to take off and I'm going to resume next week. And as long as you have the discipline and the recognition that you need to come back to it at some point, it needs to be some sort of a rhythm. You don't have to be 100% perfect at it, but it needs to be some part of your life. I think there's a lot of rhythms. Like I can't commit to exercising every single day, but I exercise probably 4 days a week. I just don't know when those 4 days will be. It may be less time and structured. For the Christians out there, there's a funny thing like we can only encounter God or Jesus from 6 to 7 a.m. in the morning with our Bible open and a cup of coffee next to us. It's like that's the only time that God is present is the joke. And that's just not true. In the same way that God is present all the time, everywhere. It may even be in you if you have the Spirit in you. Journaling, exercising, whatever, like those are things that you're able to do at any time that fits best for you. Don't over exert yourself and destroy the joy in doing that thing, but don't overly ignore it either and don't do it at all. So yeah,
Absolutely.
finding the balance.
Yeah, and not doing something just because somebody else does it, because everyone's going to give their routines on what they do, what they like, and you should do this, don't do that, and write every day, journal every day, exercise every day. But what works for one person doesn't work for everyone. And don't just, if you keep doing new things because you think that's going to be the thing that's going to satisfy because you implemented this new habit. But again, that's another thing to set you up for failure, because you miss one day, you can beat yourself up and it's like, oh man, like I screwed up and I got it. So it's, yeah, I appreciate that reminder and just not needing to beat yourself up if you're not doing what you set out to do. Like, of course you didn't. You're a human, you're fallible. Like we're not consistent as much as we want to be. So that's helpful. So tell me about you're big on honesty and radical vulnerability. Tell me about how it shows up in your work and how you tell stories that communicate what someone has. But you talked to me about it last week, how it's that balance between you want people to be open and honest, but you don't want them to like spill their guts so they open up this hurt inside of them that they weren't wanting to go to.
Yeah, I suppose going back to even the habits conversation, like it is such a balance and it is such a tension there. As far as radical vulnerability, I don't think that we can rightfully ask someone else to be vulnerable unless we're first vulnerable ourselves.
Hmm.
And a lot of conversations and videos that I've done and working with clients, I have to lead with my story and I have to lead with the reality of how illness has affected me. I'm also open now, and I wasn't necessarily publicly open with this, but I was addicted to pornography for almost a decade. And so it was rampant that it would be sometimes four to five times a week, even 2 to 3 times a day. And I was trapped. I was stuck. I hated myself. I hated how I thought. I hated my view of other people. I hated the feelings in my body. And there's a period where it goes from being something really fun and enjoyable and taboo and all those things to I am actually stuck in this permanent idolization of this thing and I don't know how to get out of it. That is a big part of my story too. So illness and addiction and learning to be really vulnerable with both of those because they're both different forms of pain. One of them in some ways is more self-induced and choices that are being made and then eventually getting stuck in that trap that you've made choices that have trapped you. And then the other one is just being born with something and having to deal with the reality that my body doesn't function the way that I'd like it to. By now, almost 28 years old, there's a lot more regularity and like rhythm and some predictability to how my illness plays out and things that are much higher risk in terms of foods and traveling and sleep and all these things. Um, but yeah, in terms of how those things apply to filmmaking, I have to lead with those with the interviewee, with the client, let them know, hey, this is my soul. This is where my soul is at. This is where my story is at. These are the things that have come from sharing this. I want to invite you to the table too. Like, you have a place to share your pain and your story or your joys and the things that are going. And it's not my role to discount what you're sharing or what you're saying. And so that practically how that plays out is there's 4 or 5 different phases to the filmmaking video process. So phase 1 is usually the research phase, the strategy phase with the client up front. In the research phase, there's typically pre-interviews with the interviewee or the people in the video. And that is when I'll start sharing some of my story. And then I'll leave the rest of it typically for the day of when we're filming in person together. And I'll give them more of the reality. And it's a gift. Like, it's a gift that they're willing to receive and listen to my story. And then I'm hopefully returning the favor and hearing them and receiving their story and not criticizing, just being grateful that they are opening their heart with me, basically a stranger, and willing to have their story displayed publicly in front of other people. Like, that's a
Mhm.
big exchange. That's a bigger exchange than what I'm giving to them versus what they're giving to me or to the client. And so a big part of that is every person on earth should have agency over their story and what they share. They should have agency over their own vulnerability. When vulnerability becomes manipulative or it becomes showy, those are two different variations of it. Vulnerability right now is very much a buzzword, but I think the root of that is we want people to be real, want
Mhm.
to get something that's dumb and fake and either over exaggerated or under exaggerated. Like, we want who we're really getting when we go to meet that person or we see that person or we follow them online. But vulnerability that is manipulated is forcing somebody to say something that they don't actually believe in, or forcing somebody to go down a route that they're not comfortable with. And so there's a lot of practical things that I like to do that give them back some of that freedom.
Yeah.
By nature of stepping onto the set, some of that freedom is gone because they've agreed to share their story, but we never want somebody ever to feel uncomfortable with the things that they're sharing. So even during the editing process, involving them in the edit, allowing them to see their story. It is their story first. It is not ours. It is not the client's. It's not my story. It is their story that's going to be shared publicly. And so letting them into that process, I think so often videos don't allow the participants to be involved in the actual editing and production process. So as much as possible, involving them in as well, because it's
That's
their
cool.
voice, it's their reality.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. I thinking of the various marketing concepts and strategic concepts that kind of apply to what you're doing. And well, first, the in terms of like influencing strategies, like I think about Catalyst by Jonah Berger. You mentioned that autonomy and giving them the agency to tell their stories. As a marketer, like myself, giving your customers, like that's such a huge thing to be able to give them that choice. And the invitation. I think if more marketers are thinking of inviting their customers into something, then that puts into perspective, like, hey, if I'm going to invite them to join me on this, I need to make sure I'm telling a story for them. And I, I admire Seth Godin a lot. He's an author and he talks about marketing being this generous act where you're inviting people in because you can solve their problems with whatever thing that you're talking about. I think about like the context that you're in, you're inviting people in, you're being generous with them by sharing their story. They're being generous back because they're listening and they're resonating with it. And then they open up to you. You're by sharing your story first, you're another influence strategy. You kind of the distance there and you're helping open it up so that you're not manipulating them, but you're being real and it establishes trust and credibility. And they want to, yes, I think it's super cool. And I haven't heard about that before in terms of involving your them in the actual editing process. And I think that's unique and probably something that sets you up and hopefully probably gives you referrals because they really enjoy working with you and that they're a part of making what ends up being the final product.
Yeah, and I guess just as a clarity thing, it's part of it is the client. I think that there's an overemphasis on aggressive words in marketing. I think we
Hmm.
use words like target a lot. Like, we're always targeting people. like, I don't want to be targeted. It feels horrible. So I think the language it's subtle. It is subtle, and it slowly starts to soften our hearts into thinking a different way. So changing language doesn't necessarily automatically change behavior, but it slowly will.
Yeah.
And the words that I like to use are giving, serving, and influencing or investing in someone. I would personally not prefer to be targeted. And so
Yeah.
I don't want to target my clients like that. They're
Yeah.
people, like they're humans. I don't want to target them. And I don't think it's bad that for the people that use that, like there is a purpose to it. There is more marketing language around that. But from a my own standpoint and just the ethos of Wilder's story and my own story, it just feels better to say, hey, how can I serve you? How can I influence you? How can I invest in you? How can I give to you? And those words are just feel more warm than target. And so that's the customer standpoint. And then, yeah, I think just to clarify, um, there's the customer involvement, which I do think a number of companies get right, and they do have good relationship with customers. And then what I was referring to was involving the participant, the interviewee. And so they may not be necessarily part of that. They may not be the client. They might be part of the organization or company or business, but the person that's actually on the video, they might be unpaid. They might be a volunteer. They might be an employee. They might be brought on from as an advisor. And so involving them in the process too. And so tangibly for me, that means sending them the video edit and sending them a feedback form and saying, hey, what are your thoughts? What's working? How does the story feel to you? Where do you feel like this is most representative of what you're saying? And where do you feel like we're missing some things? And so it's just a feedback form to get some of their thoughts before we hit send and before we upload this thing. And usually it's even before the client has seen it. So I'm sending it first to the people to say, hey, is there anything that I can take to the client,
Hmm.
feedback from you that you're like, hey, I really don't feel comfortable with this in the video, or I really like this. Is there more of this? Or this is working really well. And so for me as a business owner, I'm gathering data from the participant themselves to take to the customer to say, hey, this is what the participant in the video actually is feeling and thinking, some of their thoughts. What do you feel about this? Um, and so that's been a really sweet thing. And so every video, it depends on how many people are in the video, 1 to 10 different points of feedback potentially from people in the video that you're getting data to take to the client, letting them know how this is working for those that the story is supposed to most represent, which is the people that participated in themselves.
Quick interlude here because this is the part where I realized that I wasn't recording, but thank God I was streaming to LinkedIn, so ignore the awkward transition here. Let's wrap it up. Wrap it up here. It's been awesome to have you on the show, Sean, and just really appreciate your time and sharing vulnerable things with me. And continuing from our conversation last week, it's great to be able to connect with someone quickly, and you do that with people that you talk to, and that's very encouraging. Is there anything that you're working on or that you're trying to do with your business that you want to share as like a call to action, or just ways that people can follow you with what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn. So if y'all are already watching this on LinkedIn, you're now either following me or would like to connect. So feel free to. I love meeting new people. There is even a spot on LinkedIn on one of the links. And if you just want to grab time with me, just to chat, faith, hope, love, vulnerability story, entrepreneurship, whatever you're feeling. If it's more business wise, use one of my business links and we can set up a discovery call to talk more business stuff. But yeah, I do video work for nonprofits and businesses, particularly that are social issue focused or are looking to solve a strategic problem in their business. And they want to use more documentary, vulnerable storytelling to do that. So I like to say that I use 2 metaphors. Video is like investment assets. So if you have a savvy investor in the market, stock market, they might diversify across a whole bunch of asset classes. So they're going to have mutual funds and ETFs and retirement funds and Roth IRAs and all these things. And if you have just a very siloed investor, they might just be trying to get Tesla before it pops off. And there's a big difference between the two. And so video strategy is really diversifying the video assets across different things, building them out to serve different purposes in the business. And then the other one is the experience of going to a chef's restaurant. There's a big difference between going to McDonald's and going to a Michelin star restaurant. And A more aggressive way of asking the question is, do you want your clients to be fed McDonald's food, crappy McDonald's food, or Michelin star food? And if so, what kind of meal experience do you want them to have? When you're thinking about participants or members or viewers, we're taking them through an adventure, through a journey. Like the lighting of the atmosphere of the restaurant matters, the people that you hire to serve you, the cleanliness of the tables, the hors d'oeuvres that they bring out, the drink that they bring out. So that they're creating a 5-course meal experience. And that's the same thing that we want to do with video. So that's the video side. The entrepreneurship side is I coach faith-driven entrepreneurs that want to incorporate and know spiritual rhythms and foundations that they can put in place in their business so that they can find joy, give back, and inspire others. I
Love it.
think that there's just so much that I think we all long to have enough so that we can give back. And entrepreneurship tends to be a very me sort of style business in the solopreneur world. And so how do we not just financially, but that's a piece of it, but how do we inspire up and coming entrepreneurs, those that may not have systems developed or just feel insecure in who they are, how to use their story. Spiritually, they want to integrate more of what God says about how we're called to live into their business and how they're serving clients. And so fusing all of those together, and there's a 12-week program that people can go through and really learn how is it that we're supposed to posture our hearts and the business we've been given, and how do we steward that, and then how do we develop that into something that's healthy and sustainable so we can serve other people really well.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. And yeah, check Sean out on LinkedIn, Sean Keller, as well as wilderstory.com.
Wilderstory.com.
It's a beautiful website, by the way. I was looking at it earlier. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Appreciate your time.
Tony, this is great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.